What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your boy Wick again with another fantastic interview. I've been on Maleah for so long. Let me tell you, yeah, it's hard. The hardest people to track and nail down for a date in terms of getting the information for this interview are the most successful because they're the saying, you ever want to get something done, give it to a busy person. And there's very few people I know right now that are as busy as Maleah. Maleah, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you always.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so please introduce yourself, your business. How long have you been an esthetician? And let's get this thing going.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Maleah. I am an esthetician, licensed esthetician in the state of California. I own Naked Skin Aesthetics. We are a full body waxing studio. We are right on the border of like South Sac and Elk Grove, in the Vintage Park Shopping Center. And I've been a licensed esthetician for 4.5 years now. Had my own business full time for two. I started off at European Wax Center as soon as I got my license, right at the brink of COVID, like literally the month COVID started is the month that I was like graduating esthetician school. And then,
Wow.
yeah, I ended up applying for any and everything because no one was hiring because everyone thing was shut down. And then got an interview finally at European Wax Center and got hired on the spot. And that's how I got into waxing. And then shortly after, ended up starting my own business. And then now we have a 1,400 square foot storefront that we just had a grand opening for on February 1st. I have two employees, and then I'm still in the treatment room a couple days a week. And then we are hiring for a third full-time position.
Awesome. So Maleah, just to give people an idea of why I felt you are a good person for this interview. So in terms of, for example, sales, what's the biggest month you've done in terms of sales? How much have you done in revenue in the biggest month?
Biggest month so far was about 29,000.
Okay, so 29,000 in a month in sales.
Yep.
Okay. So and you do primarily waxing, is that correct?
Yes, full body waxing, specializing in brows and Brazilians. And then we also offer skin brightening services, mainly for the body. And then vajacials, which is kind of like a facial, but for the bikini area to complement the waxing services.
Awesome. And what's been your biggest year so far?
Biggest year was last year. We did about 250,000.
Okay, so biggest month 29,
Yep.
year 250.
Yep.
And that's what we're doing here today is I have this philosophy, if one person can do it, anyone can do it. Like I've met Maleah because she's close proximity to me many, many times. And let me tell you, she does not have a third arm that I know of, right? If she's wearing a cape because she's a super Maleah, she hides it well because I haven't seen her fly around or anything like that. She is an esthetician just like you who's just done a couple of things maybe a little bit differently that's gotten her these results. So Maleah, how did you become an esthetician? What brought you into this field?
Yeah, so kind of crazy story how everything fell out. Like I love telling this story because everyone's like, wow, like that's insane. But when I was in high school, I wanted to be a veterinarian. My parents, never went to college. My dad's always worked three jobs to support us. My mom always had a lot of health issues, stay-at-home mom. She couldn't work because of the health issues. So she would take care of us when she wasn't in the hospital.
Mm,
And my dad growing up, he didn't want that for me. He wanted me to be able to be self-sufficient. He didn't want me to depend on a man. He wanted me to be able to make my own money. And in their mind, because they never were able to go to college because they had us, my dad couldn't spend the time in college because he was working. And if he didn't work, we couldn't have a house. And then my mom, couldn't. So in their mind, success was going to college, getting a doctorate, getting that like
yeah.
4 year degree, which I feel like is pretty common, especially for minorities. And that was like dead set. So that was engraved in me since I was little. So I fell in love with animals. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I started working at a vet hospital when I was 15. I did pretty much everything there you could do without a license. I started off as a kennel assistant, taking care of the animals in the boarding. And then I became a technician assistant shortly after, assisting during procedures. Then I became a surgery assistant, assisting during surgeries. I did everything except for like intubating and cutting. So I monitored heart rate, anesthesia, all that good stuff. And then when COVID happened, I became a receptionist because we lost our reception team. And then just the 3.5 years that I was there before I graduated high school, I'm just talking with the vets that I worked under, it wasn't worth it to go to vet school. It's a lot of
Mm.
school, a lot of debt. You can't really work while you do it because it's so competitive. I wanted to go to UC Davis. That was my dream school, but the program is so competitive. If you're not top in your class, you don't make the cut. And coming from my family, I started working at 15 to help support my family with financially. So not working for 6 years while I go get a doctorate or even just working part-time wasn't going to cut it. I had to make money
Wow.
before then. So I started seeing when I was in high school an esthetician downtown for my skin, and I always dealt with hormonal cystic acne. She did a series of chemical peels on me and it completely changed my skin. And I thought that was so amazing because I had seen dermatologists before then that wanted to put me on Accutane, and Accutane's horrible. So the side effects are horrible and I didn't want to do it. And that was what they told me my only option was. So I thought it was so cool how an esthetician can do what a doctor couldn't do without the doctorate. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. So during my appointments, I was talking to her a little bit about like my career. I was so stressed out. This was like my senior year. I didn't know what to do. I knew I needed to do something. I needed to make more than minimum wage, which is what I was making at the vet hospital, but I didn't know what career I wanted to go in. And vet med was out. And that was my only option from that point on, or up until that point. So that's when she was like, well, you're really into your appointments. You've had an amazing journey. Why don't you go to beauty school? If you go to beauty school, you can come work for me. I'll teach you everything I know about corrective skincare. And then, if down the line you decide you want to do your own thing, I can help you. So
Hmm.
I thought that was amazing. I was blown away. And as soon as I graduated high school, I applied for beauty school. I worked full time while I was in beauty school full time because I was trying to knock it out as quick as possible. So I went to beauty school throughout the day, and then I also worked throughout the day at the vet hospital and then weekends. So I was like 7 days a week, 12 hours a day doing something, either work or school. And that got to be a little bit too much towards the end once I started studying for state board and I had a good of chunk in savings. So I quit my job at the vet hospital to focus on beauty school full time. I went to Federico Beauty Institute in Atomas. And right when we graduated, like the month we graduated is when COVID hit. And then all of
Oh,
the testing and everything got like pushed out. They didn't want people to come in and test, take their license and everything. So I had no job because I quit the vet hospital thinking that I was going to like blow away this license and go work for her. And then by the time that I ended up taking my test and getting licensed, the lady that I was supposed to go work for, her husband caught COVID and ended up having a stroke and she had to shut down her business and focus on him. So now I have no job. So that was a nightmare in itself because everyone in my family, like I said, they're very like, you need to go to college. They look down almost on me going to
yeah.
school, thinking that I was ruining my life. So I had no support really going into this. It was really just like faith on myself. I was like, I'm going to knock this out and I'm going to do it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll get another job. I'll go work at Starbucks or whatever. I knew I was a hard worker and I would figure it out regardless. But the
So quick question. So like,
that's
and because I think a lot of people deal with that portion of it,
yes,
meaning we have family
yeah,
that don't either some don't consider an esthetician or running your own business. They see it as such a
yes,
big risk or a gamble, especially being minority. They look at someone becoming a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, those normal things. And how was that conversation with your family? Meaning, what were they saying? How was that making you feel
yeah.
in that part of it?
Yeah, so it was my mom is kind of go with the flow a little bit, but my dad for sure was like, no, like you need to go at least to like Sac City or Casumas and start getting like your undergrad, your AA. And you can figure it out later on. But I just knew, I don't know, like there was just something in me. I was like, I don't want to do that. And for me,
No.
like I'm the type of person, if I don't want to, I'm not going to give it 100%. And I knew that like if I went in and pursued this other career just to make other people happy, I wasn't going to excel in it. And I knew that I was passionate about, the beauty industry. And I didn't know why at the time. Like it was really weird because it was kind of a spur of the moment. And I think that's what scared them is in the past, like I had never really wanted to be in the beauty industry until like all these conversations started happening. So it literally was like a 1 month transition of like, I'm no longer going to UC Davis. I'm going to Federico Beauty Institute now. But I think it's looked down upon because it's a trade school, realistically, it's
Yeah.
not a college. Um, so I think it was looked down upon, but I think it's because people aren't educated. I really do. I think the fear of the unknown scared him. And I think it 100%, like it wasn't to talk down on me or think that I can't do it. I think it was the fear of the unknown of, oh shoot, she's going to get trapped in this and then she's not going to be successful and she's not going to be self-sufficient. And my dad is very like, no, as a woman, you need to be self-sufficient, And he's very like engraved that into my brain. And I think it just wasn't safe. And he wanted me to be in a safe career where, I can have 100 grand secured every year and I can do that. But my thing is it comes with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt also and these years
Yeah.
and there's downsides, pros and cons to everything. So I honestly had not much support going into beauty school. I had to pay for it myself and fund it myself and I just did it. And the day that I went and signed up, I didn't even tell them. I just went and signed up. I went to Federico. I was over 18 at the time. So I went to Federico. I took my test to get in. I signed my papers and then I had my start date and then I just did it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of parents, like especially, again, looking at my stuff and other people that I know, sometimes it's just one of those things because when other parents get together with their
Yes.
friends, they're gonna ask, "Oh, what is your child doing? What's Maleah doing?
Yep.
Oh, is she going to college? What college?" And
Yes.
they hear these things like, "Oh, she's going to UC Davis, or she's
Yep.
going to become a veterinarian." And it's like, "Oh, wow!" It's that conversation piece. It's almost like a pride thing that a lot of
Yes.
I think parents deal with as well, just to have that diploma up there
Yep.
when especially and I believe a couple of things that I just got from you is you've had some good people, good mentors in your life that have guided you. For example,
Yes.
if the vet didn't say, well, maybe you shouldn't do this because of the time it takes, the debt and
Yes.
all these things, because some people will just pump up their own career to
Yes.
make it because they're doing it,
Yep.
right? For them to badmouth their careers, kind of like saying that they shouldn't be doing there. So
Yep.
it's cool that vet did give you that information to help guide you, and then also out one door and then the other door, your esthetician that was willing to kind of help you, that gave you your results, willing to mentor you. So sometimes I believe, like, God guides us in weird ways if we're
Absolutely.
listening, to those
Yep.
messages.
Yeah. And that's the crazy part is like everything really just happened for a reason because even after that, I was freaked out because all these people are telling me like, oh, this isn't gonna work, this isn't gonna work, you're ruining your life, you need to go to college. And then boom, COVID hits and now I don't have a job. And that was
Yeah.
my whole thing was I was supposed to go work for her and now I have no job. So now everyone's like, dang, like I told you. So now, I quit the vet hospital to do all of this. They of course they knew I was leaving. I was gone for a couple months at this point. So they already filled my position. I can't go back there really. Like it's COVID. No one's hiring right now because everything's shut down. So I was just applying for any and everything. And originally I wanted to do corrective skincare. Like that was what I was passionate about because of my journey. But at
Hmm.
this point, like I just need a job. So I'm like, I'm just gonna apply everywhere. And I really wanted to be in the beauty industry because if I hadn't, like then everyone could be like, dang, like you just spent all this money on
Yeah.
going to school. You know what I mean? You spent this $10,000 or whatever going to school for what? Like now you're working at Starbucks. So I was
Yeah,
like, no,
you
I'm
you
not doing
you
that.
could you would confirm their "I told you so's,"
Yes, yes.
right?
And I'm not like
Oh.
that. So like I'm like, no, I'm gonna figure this out. We're gonna get a job in the beauty industry and we're gonna do it. So I just applied for any and everything. And Massage Envy, I applied for all the chains, I applied for all the small businesses, but everything was shut down. So everyone was like, we just can't hire right now. And then luckily I ended up getting a call from European Wax Center. They brought me in for an interview, and then day of my interview, I got hired.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yep, they hired me on the spot. So that was awesome. It was part-time, but it was a job. And then originally or after, shortly after I became full-time, once everything started to open up a little bit. But yeah, I started at European Wax Center. They do about a week of training. And during my training, I just kind of kicked butt and I just really like owned in. And, I even like during my days, off, like I would go home and like look on YouTube waxing videos because waxing is a little difficult, like especially when you have no idea what you're doing and when you're doing Brazilians, I feel like. And the training there was so fast that it's like I felt like I needed to study to be able to be great. And whatever I do, like I'm gonna be the best in. So I ended up doing like a bunch of online trainings and stuff like that to help me excel my skills past European Wax Center training. And I kind of just picked it up really fast. And then within a few months, I started waxing the girls at the front desk. And then whenever someone would call for recommendation, they'd be like, oh, well, this is who I get waxed by, go see Maleah. And because of that, I just built my clientele up really quickly there. So within like 6 months, I was fully booked with a wait list. And then I was full-time at that point also. So I was getting the tips and everything. I was making decent money, but I was just really overworked. And that's kind of just their business model is they know that there's high turnover. So they just like throw anything and everything at you. And then they also work on levels. So the faster you are, the more you get paid. So I was just ranking up the levels as I was working there. And then it wasn't until about a year and a half later that I decided that like, hey, like I'm not really liking this. I love the waxing portion. Like I fell in love with waxing there. That's one thing I will say. The training and the waxing were awesome because it's what got me started, but I just
Mhm.
wasn't a fan of the business model, the politics. It's very gossipy. There was just certain things about the business model itself that I wasn't in love with. And that's when I decided to branch out into my own business and started thinking about that. And then it wasn't until I started like just looking for rooms to rent. And I met Cindy, who was my first landlord. And I was so terrified because, again, like now I have this super stable job. I have this consistent paycheck. It wasn't like amazing, you know what I mean? But it was a consistent paycheck. I was making more than minimum wage. So
Yep.
my parents were really happy with that because they're like, oh, shoot, like at least you're not like underwater. You know, at least you have a job. At least you have a paycheck. And like I said, my dad's used to working multiple jobs. So he likes the paycheck. He likes the safe. So when I had the idea to branch off on my own and start my own business, here come all the thoughts again of, are you sure you want to do this? Like you're going to risk your job at European Wax Center to do this? Why would you do that? Like, why would you risk $2,000 every 2 weeks to go off and potentially, you know, have no clients? Like it was just all
Yeah.
of these like negative feedbacks. And I'm like, you know what? I think I just need to do it. And that's when I decided. So I started looking for rooms to rent. And I met Cindy, who was my first landlord, and the rent I think was so originally, me and another girl at European Wax Center were going to share the room. So it was going to be $400 a piece. But to me, that was really scary because I've never paid rent before. I'm still living with my parents. So I'm like, oh shoot, like it's still COVID. I don't know like if it's going to shut down again, how I'm going to pay this rent, if like I can't afford it, like what am I going to do? So I was going to do it. I was ready to sign the lease. And then the girl that I was supposed to get the room with ended up backing out. So now it
Mhm.
went from 400 to 800 because now I don't have anyone to share the room with me. And I was like, whoa, like I can't do that. And you know, I called the landlord and I was like, listen, like I'm so sorry I wasted your time. I was like, I didn't mean to, like, unfortunately, the girl that I was supposed to go in on this with, you know, backed out on me. And I'm so scared, like I can't do the 800 a month right now. That's like half my paycheck. And that's when she was like, honey, like I when you came in here, like your face lit up, like I know that this is for you. She was like, if you are serious about this, we will share the room, me and you. It'll be $450 a month. You will pay me on commission up until your rent. So if you see one client, you just pay me 40% of whatever they pay you. If you see 50 clients, all you pay me is 40% up until the $450. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
And
Good deal.
I was like, oh wow. I was like, that's awesome. Because then I'm not in that commitment, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I still have a chance. And that was really, I have a feeling like if that never happened, because I had so much negative feedback of, hey, like you're ruining your life if you do this, you're risking your job. Why would you do that? I don't think I would have took that risk because I
Yeah.
had all these people telling me that I was ruining my life. But there wasn't really a risk because of what she gave me, if that makes sense. Like if it didn't work out,
And that's important, right? Because it is scary from never paying rent to
yes,
now you have that overhead hanging over you,
yes,
meaning you are negative until you make at least that 800,
yes.
and even then that's just getting to zero.
Yep.
And at that point, and there's no guarantee you're going to get the clients, and you hear the other stories of how hard it is and running
Yes.
a business and doing all that. But that's one of the cool things, and that's, I think, a very valuable lesson for a lot of people, that there are creative ways. So if somebody else is thinking about if they're working for a chain and are looking at going, so there are very creative ways you can look at rent, right?
Absolutely.
And that one is fantastic because it takes away some of that fear, some of that risk. And also, Malia, I think that's one of your superpowers, is you do have this magnetic personality that when you are passionate about something and you're sincere about it, I believe people can really see that in a person, and
Mhm.
they're willing to risk that, because that your landlord didn't have to do that, obviously not. That's
Absolutely. Yeah,
right.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I'm so grateful for her because of, everything, because I 100% believe because of how much negative feedback I had, I would not have done it for $800 a month. I was so
No.
scared. I was like, there's no way I can do that because no one supported me. And I feel like if I had the support, absolutely, but I was young, you know what I mean? I was still 18 when all this happened. So it's like, I had no idea what I was doing and everyone's telling me I'm ruining my life. Why would I not listen? Um,
And after you started your business,
yep.
you were doing both then, correct? You're still at the
Yes.
waxing and doing that?
Yes. Still at European Wax Center, still doing my thing on the side. My first month I maybe seen 20 clients and then it just kind of kept growing from there. And then within like 2, 3 months, I was like my 40% commission was paying my $450 rent. So then we
Nice.
switched me over to just base $450 every month on the 1st. And then she was having issues. So her landlord, so she was subleasing to me. So she was renting from someone, and then I was renting from her. That's what subleasing means. So basically, her landlord had, I guess she didn't tell her landlord that like she was subleasing to me, or like there was like miscommunication with that. And her landlord was like a landlord from hell and would come in,
Wow.
like turn on the heat like while I was working, and my wax wouldn't dry. So she would just like mess with me while I was there and I had to get out. And
What the fuck?
yeah, it was insane. So they ended up taking each other to court. It was like a whole thing. Um, but I ended up needing to leave. So, like shortly, it was like a few months later, I ended up needing to leave because she would turn the heat on and it would be like 100 degrees in there, and my wax wouldn't dry. So I was losing clients
Mm.
because of that. So now I'm looking for another room, but now I can't find another room that's $450 a month. Like everything is $900 plus. So that's when I met Jessica. So Jessica was actually my client over at European Wax Center, and that's my next landlord. For everyone who doesn't know Jessica, so um, Jessica was my client over at European Wax Center, and she was my client since like the beginning. And whenever she would come in, she'd be like, "Maleah, you're so good at what you do. You need to go off on your own." And she's a hairstylist, and Jessica's personality. She's very strong, so she's like, "Maleah, like, what are you doing?" Like every time she comes in. And then like I finally rented the room. She was super proud of me, and then I had all this happen. So she comes in, and just off a whim, like I'm just kind of telling her what's going on while I'm waxing her full body. And she's like, "Well, listen, like I have a salon downtown, but I'm getting a place in Vintage Park." And she's like, "So if you really need a place, like right now, you can come downtown with me until I have the place in Vintage Park." And Vintage Park was cool because it was like 5 minutes from my parents' house. I'm still with my parents at this point. So I ended up doing it. I ended up not going downtown because I can't stand downtown. I can't parallel park like the one-way streets. I'm gonna drive the wrong direction, cause an accident. They don't want me down there. So I waited until she was at her Vintage Park location, opened that salon, and then I started renting from her, $600 a month, and that was a lot more doable than like the 800, 900 in my opinion. And then that's when I really started taking my business seriously because I was paying rent, like a good chunk of rent on the first. I feel like I was like, oh shoot, like I need to do this. And I was also getting a little bit fed up with European Wax Center at the time because they had promised me like some raises that I didn't end up getting. Like I held up my end of the bargain and they didn't end up giving them to me, which
Shady.
is shady, yeah, and kind of illegal because we had a contract. But I was just like so fed up with them that I was to the point where like I didn't care if I got fired. Like I knew I was gonna make it work, and I was just telling like all my clients that I was leaving. um and for everyone watching this, like that's a sticky situation, so don't do what I do, do what I don't do what I say, you know, like be careful. um,
But there are ways, and I think that's one of the things that is important because a good client will follow you.
yes,
Right,
absolutely.
and that's really important. There's one thing if you're telling people, "Go, hey, forget this, come
Yes,
over there," right? Because there are certain legalities
yes,
that are dealing that because you did sign some paperwork or something like that. However, if you do say, "Hey, by the way, I am going to be leaving here," da da da. If somebody wants to follow you, that's their opinion, that's their option,
absolutely.
that's what they can do.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what I did is I just had a business Instagram and I just told people to follow my business Instagram and I was like, "Hey, like there's going to be a time where I'm not here. If for whatever reason you do want to come find me, this is where you do." And then
Yeah.
I just had all of my updates on that business Instagram and I didn't have my face on it. So like if whoever came about it, like they couldn't tell it was me. And then basically that became my business Instagram. That's still Naked Skin Waxing's original Instagram. Like Naked Skin Waxing, the one that we have now, was the same Instagram that I had back then. I just changed the name. And then it was then when I was like, I need to take this serious. And I started following a bunch of different like waxers all over the place and just like seeing what they were doing and like seeing what they were posting and stuff like that. And then Liz, she owns a waxing studio out of state, but she was posting about her business coach and how like she helped her and how she's like a part of the program now. She's like an affiliate, da 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 da. And I loved Liz's business. So I was like, huh. So I messaged her and I'm like, hey Liz, like, is this legit? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you actually like believe in her and whatever? And the business coach she was posting was Bosses and Beauty. That was my first ever business coach. Rhea is amazing. She very similar to me. She started off as a full body waxing studio and then turned it into a 7-figure med spa. And then she sold her business. And then now she teaches other estheticians how to do it. So that's one thing. If you're going to take anything from this live today, is hire a business coach and pay for the mentorship, whether it's marketing, whether it's anything, bookkeeping, like pay for it because I get it in the beginning. You don't want to spend the money because I was the same way, but it 100 times comes back around once you find the right people. And it wasn't until I found Rhea that I really like went full force into my business.
So, what were some of the takeaways that Rhea helped you with that
Yeah.
you felt like these were the nuggets that either cleared your mind, aimed you in the right direction, and really helped you out?
Yeah. So my first program with Rhea was a 6-figure beauty business blueprint. It's for solo estheticians. It was I think 2,500 or 3,000 around there. It was less than 3,000 for the program, which to me at the time was like, whoa, like I have never
Yeah.
spent $3,000 in my freaking life because I didn't even have my own car at the time. So it was like insane. But I don't know, like I just decided to do it. And it was a 6 or 8 week course. And every week there would be live calls. It was all group coaching. So we would just watch the live and then there was like Q&As after. And then we had access to like group chats and stuff. And in that program, she taught a lot about marketing, different ways to market your business. I learned about websites, SEO, Google Ads. She put me in contact with the person who made my website, Jay from Growth Brands. And he does my SEO and my Google Ads now. And then I also learned about client experience. I learned about, the things that make people come back. I learned about KPIs. KPIs are so important. Those weren't things that I was tracking before. I was
Yeah.
just, if money came in, like I was just spending it. I got a bookkeeper and I really like owned in on what a business was, but I had never had a business at this point. This is my first business. So I was just like, okay, like we're doing better than last month. Like, let's just keep going. But I really started tracking my numbers. I would say tracking your numbers, one is
Mhm.
100% one of the things you have to do. What is your sales coming in? What is your top service? What is your cost of goods? What are you spending on supplies? And then what are you spending on others? There's cost of goods, and then there's also just regular overhead. Cost of goods is anything that's tied to the service. So your cotton rounds, your sticks, your wax, how much does a service cost you to do? You need to figure that out because that's going to base your prices. And then also, what are your other expenses that aren't tied to the service? What are your ad spends? What are your rents? What is all the things that doesn't help the business grow necessarily? So getting a bookkeeper and really getting clear on my numbers was amazing. And then also tracking pre-book rate, tracking retention, tracking, how many clients are coming back, how many clients aren't, because if your retention is poor, it's usually either your experience or your results. So you need to figure out
Yep.
what's going on with that. And it was me really owning in on that that helped me grow, and then tracking where, new clients were coming from. I started asking where clients were finding me at, owning in on, okay, most clients are coming from Google, we need to really double down on Google. So just stuff like that that I wasn't thinking about, that seems kind of common sense now that like I'm in the business. But at the time, being 18, that's not common sense to you, you know. So that was
So
the main things.
so looking at that, because I think one of the things that is just critical, especially in a service business, is the client experience.
Yes.
Right? Because they can go anywhere to get waxed. They can do this. They can do that. They can, but for some reason they come back to you, and obviously because you are successful. So break down what client experience means to you, and then more importantly, like what are the things that you do to enhance that client experience? Like what are the step by step processes that you feel has made an impact and that keeps them coming back?
Okay. Yeah, so I feel like client experience for me started with European Wax Center because at European Wax Center, there's so many options for wax specialists. I really had to make myself stand out. And the way that I did that was being very, very detailed in what I did, paying very close attention to detail. Like for example, one thing that was always missed on me when I get waxed is the bunny tail. So like right in the very, very back, you can't get it knees to chest, you have to roll them on their side right there, where your bunny tail is, everything was always missed. And European Wax Center style is knees to chest for butt strips. So
Hmm.
I would always have that missed on me where like I would get home, I'd be in the shower, I'd be like, I still got some hair back there. So I started thinking about that like as a client. I'm like, wow, I'd be really upset like if I paid $60 for a wax and I go home and there's still hair back there. So I just started paying really close attention to detail, and I started rolling people on their side after knees to chest to get that bunny tail. And that honestly is like 360'd my growth at European Wax Center, because
Wow.
no other waxer there was doing that because I was the first. So when people would come to me, they'd be like, wow, like no one has ever done this before. And I'm like, yeah, well, it always got missed on me. So why would I leave it on you? It takes me 2 seconds. It's nothing. But in other people's brain, that's 2 seconds that they're going to be, taking more on that service. Why would they do it? It's not a standard European Wax Center thing. So just
Right.
little things like that, and then really education. I was very, very educated on what caused ingrowns. I was also the first there to look into the body wash thing. I was in Facebook groups on waxing, just reading comments, reading like people would be like, "Oh, my client's getting ingrowns," and I seen all these comments of like, "What body wash are they using?" And I was like, "Huh, like what goes into body wash? Like, why does body wash make a difference?" Because European Wax Center never taught me about body wash. They taught me exfoliate and moisturize, but nothing about body wash. We sold a body wash, but no one was selling it because nobody knew why we needed to sell it. And it wasn't until then, like I did my research, I was like, oh, body wash leaves film, like most over the counter body washes, especially Dove, leaves a film residue on the skin. So even if they're exfoliating and moisturizing, they're still getting ingrowns because they're body wash. So now I can get people to switch their body wash. They never have another ingrown again. So it was just these little differences that like I really paid attention to and started educating my clients on. They've been having ingrowns for years. No one, everyone's like, well, are you exfoliating? Are you moisturizing? No one thought about the body wash to tell them about that.
Mm.
Then they come to me and I'm like, well, okay, try this for 30 days. If it doesn't work, you never have to get it again. But if it does, now we know the problem. They were taking home my body wash and now they trust me because now I just fixed their ingrown problem that they've been dealing with for years because no one thought to look into why they're getting ingrowns. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And you know what? That is just critical. That is so valuable. So, two of the things that I want to repeat what Maleah just said is one, look at what others are doing that you like, and also what you don't like. So, for example, let's just say the bunny tail, if you didn't like that on you, and that's a common thing that you hear that's out there, you can address and fix that problem. Because if you don't like it, chances are other people don't either. So, it's good, it's awesome to look at these, and also say what are other people not doing
Yeah.
that isn't going to take a ton of time, because like you mentioned, that's just you're talking about seconds there. And the other thing is that's awesome, Malia, is how you're learning. Because when you look at a service such as like waxing, there's only a handful of problems that probably can happen. You
Right.
know, like and like ingrowns is one of them, or whatever the other problems are. But if you can just look at those, learn about them, figure out how to fix them,
Yep.
right? Now, one, you not only have a happier client, because who the fuck likes an ingrown, right? No one likes ingrowns. They
Right.
suck, right? But you went through the process of saying, okay, let me help, let me try to figure this out. And literally figuring things out is going into another group, doing a little bit of research, finding out what's working for other people.
Yeah.
And then you do that, not only do you have a happier client, but you're also able to sell product as well.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's all about education. And then one thing that I should have touched on that you brought up is seeing what you like and dislike. Another thing that I did when I got started working there, I got waxed by every waxer there because I
Yeah.
wanted to see what they were doing and what felt good as a client and what didn't feel good as a client. And that's how I made my technique. I don't wax the way that European Wax Center taught me because my technique is a mix of all the things that I've learned. And that's another thing that Rhea taught me. Even like that when I did that, that was before I took her program. But afterwards, she's like, go get waxed by everyone in your city and figure
Yes.
out like, okay, when you walk through the door, are they greeting you? Are they not? Like, how does that feel as a client? And that's literally what I did is I went and got serviced by every single person I could, even if I had to pay for it. And I figured out, okay, as a client, like that didn't feel good. I'm not doing that to people. And I feel like that's super important. You have to get that experience yourself as a client to be able to give it to other people the best way. And then feedback from clients. I'll literally ask clients, what am I doing good? What am I doing bad? What makes you come back to me? We ask clients that all the time. What makes you come back to Naked Skin? And that's how I get my feedback. We have something on our consent forms. First, clients fill out consent forms. The first question they answer is, what can we do to make this a wow experience for you? And that's how we collect feedback to create our client experience. And
Awesome.
client
And
experience
and
starts
and
everywhere.
so what has been the responses? So for example, when you ask that question, what gets them coming back again and again? What have been the responses you've been getting?
So of course ours is tailored toward waxing, so facialists would be different, but mainly deep breaths, making sure you say deep breaths before you pull, applying pressure when you remove the strip helps alleviate discomfort, making them feel comfortable, making it not awkward, keeping that conversation up, being very thorough. Those are the most four common ones. So our client experience is tailored around that.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Sweet. So what else? So you get people coming back. One of the things that I really liked about you that I thought you did very well is your social media. So
Yep.
how do you do your social media? I believe you have a social media manager. What's the process that you go through for that?
Yeah, so social media is the first thing that I delegated and hired out, even before I hired a bookkeeper. So when I was still at European Wax Center, and doing my business, I was pretty full time in my business, plus still full time at European Wax Center, just trying to create a savings and reinvest back into the business because I had bought that program and all the other stuff. So first thing that I hired out was my social media manager. Drea is absolutely freaking amazing. If you're in Sacramento, I can totally connect you with her. She still is accepting clients. But I pay her $750 a month. And basically, she comes in once every 2 weeks and she comes for 2 hours and she records content for us. And she comes in with a whole entire plan. So she keeps up with all the social media stuff so that I don't have to as the owner. I don't have to spend my time doing it. One thing I will say is write down every single task that you do and figure out what you like doing and what you're good at. Anything you don't like doing or you're not good at, you need to start delegating to other people as you can afford to, because you're going to waste your time. You're trying to do things that you're not good at and you're using your time up when you can put them into things that you are good at. And that was the thing. I wasn't good at social media. It just wasn't something that it took a ton of time that I didn't have at the time because I was working full time in my business plus full time at European Wax Center. So I needed to start getting stuff off my plate. So I put out an Indeed ad on social media. Rhea actually helped me, or her team did. Her hiring team helped me create a job list posting, put it on Indeed, helped me do interviews, gave me interview questions, and that's how I connected with Drea was through this process that I learned from Rhea. And she came in and just started blowing it away. And she comes in once every 2 weeks with the plan of, hey, this is what's trending right now. This is what we're doing. I send her stuff throughout the week. If I see something, we have a Slack group chat where I'm like, hey, let's do this, X, Y, and Z. She makes a plan to knock it out, comes in, and then she takes it home, edits it, and reposts it, and manages all my DMs. So she does everything social media for me.
Yeah. And it's one of those fears I think a lot of people have. And the cool part is you're on the other side of that, right? Where you're like, okay, before, whether it's the fear of going solo, paying rent,
Yep.
whether it's the fear of investing in a coach, it's
Yep.
the fear of hiring a social media manager. Now that you've gone through that process, because I think I believe a lot of people are scared of pulling that trigger, and it's one of those questions that, like, for example, yourself, if you didn't have a coach, if you were still doing your own social media, everything, you're still doing your own books, right? Do you feel you'd be as successful as you are now?
100% no.
And that's part of the part of the investment. Is a lot of the time people say I can't afford that, but if it's what I think, again, the numbers are whatever they are, but I think the average esthetician is doing about 3 to 4 thousand a month, right? Let's just say that. And let's just say you're doing about, whether it's the 15 to 20, and of course, as you're growing and you're hiring more, you're going to do above and beyond, but
Yeah.
that is what it's costing you
Yeah.
not to do these things.
Yeah.
Because if you're stuck doing them yourself, and like you mentioned, I think that's one of the biggest problems that I see in the industry is, one, people don't like to do the social media,
Yeah.
and two, they're not farming it out either,
Right.
right? So people don't want to pay that 700 or what have you, but understanding that, well, not paying that 700 is costing you 5,000.
Yes. And that's where you have to get really clear of like what you could be making. So one exercise that Rhea did with us that really changed that for me is she had me figure out what my hourly cost is. So for me, I do 20-minute Brazilians. I could see 3 Brazilians an hour at 63 a piece. So let's say $190. Is it worth $190 for you to do your own social media? It's like you can use that time to see 3 Brazilians, but you can hire it out for, let's say, $18 an hour. How does that make sense? And that
Yeah.
was like what really was like turning point for me was I was like, you're right. Like I could use this time and make more money than what I would dish out for someone to do it better. And that's why making that list, and I'm talking every single thing that you do, responding to messages, responding to DMs, responding to texts, every single thing that you do, write it out and right next to it, who you can hire to do that job, whether you like doing it and whether you're good at it. If you don't like doing it or you're not good at it, even if you like doing it, but you're not good at it, someone else needs to do it. Someone else
Yeah.
do it because it's not beneficial because why would you be doing it? You're not good at it when you can go make $180 an hour. You got to weigh
Yeah.
out pros and cons. There's only so many hours in a day. So it's like at some point you're going to be turning away clients to do this. And if you're not good at it, how does that make sense? And that's what
And you're miserable. And you're miserable
yeah,
in the
and
process.
you're miserable in the process. And that was the thing was I didn't have any more time. So that was the one thing that I wasn't good at was social media. That was taking a huge chunk of time. So I was like, why not? And that's when I hired Drea. And then she helped me get the girls booked. And then we started tracking where people were coming from and what was doing well. And she handles all that for me. So she handles all of the tracking for social media. So that's another thing I don't have to do. So now I can focus on all the other stuff. And then I have someone that does Google. And then I have someone that does this. And then I have someone that does that. And then my girls are here now. So it's like a chain reaction. But you definitely, like 100%, if you're going to take anything from this, you have to spend money to make money. And I 100% believe I would not be here had I not taken that $3,000 program 2, 3 years ago. And then it goes, the amount I've invested in business coaches is insane. After the $3,000 program, I was fully booked, ready to hire, and I had to take Rhea's next program. I ended up taking her platinum program. It was like $13,000. And she taught me how to hire. She taught me how to manage a team. She taught me legalities of it. She taught me, they literally sat down and helped me with interviews for my first esthetician, and helped me map out my systems and processes finances and all that good stuff. And all that knowledge, the $13,000 that I spent helped me make $250,000 last year. And that's what you have to think of is I get it's a lot of money. It's very scary, but you have to risk it to get it. I mean, it is what it
Yeah.
is.
But you know, the only problem with that, Malia, is like, for example, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that take Rhea's course,
Mhm.
right? And you know, there could be 100 people that take a course.
Yes,
Those
absolutely.
100 people will get different results because the thing with you is you're a workhorse, right?
Yes.
You are willing to work, and that's one thing I just know about you personally, but also from hearing from you, even when you were first becoming an esthetician, is and getting into waxing or working at the wax place, right? European wax, is you would go on YouTube and learn more and figure
Yes.
out how to do more.
Yes.
Because a lot of this coaching stuff, coaches can do so much for you,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
you have to freaking be willing to put in that work yourself. So how did you do that? Meaning, a lot of people say, "Well, I hired a coach," and it's kind of like buying a treadmill at the house,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Most people, I know people that have a treadmill at the house, and it's a great place to dry clothes,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. That's a very good, no, yeah, that's a very good question. And honestly, I didn't even think about that because that's not the type of person I am. If you're not going to put in the work, like a business coach is not going to change that for you. And you really have to do some self-reflecting and figure out what you want. Because for me, like I think that's one thing that business coaches have always, I've had multiple at this point. I've had like 4 or 5. So I think that's one thing business coaches have always said is I'm their favorite client because every single thing they tell me to do, I don't question it. I just do it. And there's no like hesitation. There's no waiting. The only thing I did procrastinate on was hiring. And it was because I was scared. So that's the only thing I've ever procrastinated on. And then also I think quitting European Wax Center. But the business
No.
coach is really going to put you in that position like Rhea was like, listen, like if you do not quit European Wax Center, do not call me. And I'm like, I just paid you like $13,000. What do you mean don't call you? And she's like, Maleah, like I'm telling you, do not come to the next meeting if you are still at that job. But it's like if that didn't happen, like the next month I doubled my revenue solo. I
No.
was doing like $20,000 solo. So it's like, at some point you have to just listen and you have to take the ego away and know that you do not know everything and find that coach that already did it. Rhea already built a 7-figure, $1 million, multiple $1 million business. She turned a waxing studio into a med spa and then sold it for like a 4x multiple. So who am I to sit here and be like, no, I'm not doing what you say? No, like it is what it is. If that's what you tell me I need
No.
to do, that's what I need to do. And I think because everything had worked up until that point, that's a huge thing. Telling me to quit my job, that's $4,000 secured income every single month, bare minimum. That's a huge thing. But I knew that I needed to do this. And I think that's a self-reflection that you have to have is are you ready to go all in or are you not? And if you're not, then
Yeah.
don't waste your money. But if you are, then finding the right people and putting the right people in the right seats is absolutely going to help you.
As you know, it's a self-reflection that's the part, and sometimes you just need a kick in the ass.
Mhm.
I think that's what Rhea did for you is she just
Yeah,
saw who you are and your value,
yeah,
and she goes, man, it's almost like saying you're an idiot. Why are you choosing
yeah,
this
yeah,
over this? I
yeah.
know you can do this, and that's the truth with anybody listening to this. You
Yeah.
can do this.
Absolutely.
However, it is work. There is no way around it. So Malia, like when you're working with Rhea and some of these other coaches, there's work involved, and there's times I assume that you did not want to do the work, or there's a part that they're saying, okay, you have to do this, or this is part of the plan, and you're like, fuck, I don't want to do this, right? What made you do the things when you didn't want to do them?
I would say one, the major success that they've had, every single business coach that I have had has had a $1 million business, $1 million esthetician business. Not necessarily waxing, but like right now, Tanya Just the Strip. I don't know if you know the owner of Just the Strip, Tanya. She's my business coach right now. But she
Hmm.
has multiple locations, and that's what my next plan is. So she's my current business coach, and I think just the success that she's had is like, why would you make it harder on yourself? And here's the thing, like you can absolutely like I have a feeling I could have figured all this out on my own. Like it would have took me a very, very, very long time. But the thing is, I would rather personally pay someone who's already done it, because clearly they've already done it. They like what they're doing works because it's done, you know? So I would 100% rather pay someone that's already done it to tell me how to do it than to sit here and try to reinvent the wheel. It's the same wheel, guys. Like, it's the same.
No.
Realistically, everybody's doing the same thing. And the reason I know that is because I have so many $1 million business coaches. They all do the same thing, maybe a little variation, but everyone's doing the same thing. And it takes a little bit of, especially because I'm a little hard-headed, sometimes it takes me a few times to like hear it to be like, dang, I need to do that. But everything has worked up until this point.
Yep.
And that's when things started working. I'm like, okay, well, it's working. Clearly it worked for them because they're over there with $1 million. So why would I not do it? And yeah, there was a couple times where I was like, dang, like it was mainly in the beginning. I will say that I don't do it anymore. There's not one question. I don't question my business coaches anymore. But in the beginning, I was like, leaving European Wax Center, like, are you serious? Like, I've done all this with working European Wax Center. And it wasn't until I left the next month we doubled our revenue. And I was like, wow, like that's insane. During the winter, winter's slowest season for waxing. And I doubled my revenue in 1 month of leaving my full-time job. So it's like, I think that was my biggest thing, was leaving European Wax Center. And then hiring was very scary because I was worried about someone coming in and ruining my business. And that was a mental block. There's a lot of mental blocks that business owners have that you have to really break through, and like therapy and even business coaches can help you with that a little bit. A lot of them do like a lot of mental health retreats where you can go and really clear your mind and figure out what the mental blockage is. But mental blocks is a huge thing in business. You have to clear all of that and all of those limiting beliefs. They're called limiting beliefs, where you have, this is what I believe in myself. I believe I can't do this. Okay, what 3 things do I have to support that I can do this? So things like that are huge mindset.
Yeah, and also it's the accountability,
Yeah.
right? Meaning, I think that's why I like to hear when someone like yourself invests in a coach,
Mhm.
because you're like, shit, I just paid 3 grand. I better get something out of it, right? Like
Absolutely.
otherwise you're just pissing it away if you're
Absolutely.
not you're buying a treadmill and you're
Yep.
not going to use it. Well, you know that you're not going to get the results.
Yep.
That's just how it is. And I know one thing about you, Malia, is you work crazy. What are the hours you work?
Um, so in the treatment room, I work 3 days. I work Sundays 9 to 6, Tuesdays 2 to 8:30, Thursdays 8 to 2:30, but I'm pretty much on call 24/7.
Mhm.
So it's like, and that's the downside of being a business owner, is you're always on call. There's always something for you to do. So I think really delegating I'm really trying to get in the mindset. I have a little bit of a control problem. Just a little bit. So I'm really trying to get in the mindset of letting people help me more, especially my team that I've had, for quite a bit now, of letting them take some stuff off my plate. That way I can figure out what is best spent with my time. So my time right now is best spent marketing and, growing the business. I'm really trying to work on getting myself out of the treatment room. So I stopped taking new clients. I'm letting all the girls take new clients now. I don't take any, period. And then basically, as I hire and expand, I'm taking myself out of the treatment room slowly and putting myself in that owner role instead of a service provider role.
And before you hired people,
Yep.
when you were the waxer, how many
Uh,
hours were you working then?
40 hours.
So,
Yep. I was in
it's
the treatment
it's
room 40 hours, and then everything admin was outside of the 40 hours. So waxing 40 hours. Yeah.
so it's time, it's work, it's commitment, and I that's just one of the things that I just feel a lot of people underestimate the time and the work it takes to become successful.
Absolutely.
Right. It is literally you just down there, you're just doing it, you're putting it in, you're getting clients. So one thing when I first recently was working with you recently before is your Google reviews. You had like 100 plus Google reviews, right? And to me, that's one of the best things that can instantly separate a business apart, is if you have 100 plus Google reviews. So what was your process or procedure to get those Google reviews? It just makes it easier to sell people. It's nice.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So Google is going to help you, Google reviews is going to help you with SEO. And then it's also going to help you with your word of mouth. So whenever someone looks up like waxing near me, whoever has the best SEO is going to pop up first. Really, like realistically, that's how it works. It's more complicated than that, but like in
No.
layman's terms, that's how it works. So Google reviews was something that I really have always focused on. And the way, so part of our client retention strategy and client experience strategy is they get a text from me as the owner the day after they come in for their first appointment. So any client, any new clients who have never been to us before, and any client who is seeing a new service provider, I go through the schedule the day before. I send them a check-in text the next day, asking them how their experience was and asking them how their results was. If a client is not coming back to you, it is either because of the experience or because of the results. There's no other reason why. So
Yeah.
I ask them, hey, what's going on? A part of our client retention strategy, we also have a no hair left behind guarantee. So if they have any hair left behind, they can come back within 5 days for a free touch-up and we'll fix it. And then we'll also give them a little extra to make up for it. So client satisfaction is up here, and that's why we have like our retention rate is at like 85%. Like we have a crazy high retention rate. I have never seen our retention in other people's business. And the only reason I know that is because I have so many business coaches. So that I've been in so many programs with other people. Like our retention is crazy. And the reason why is because we back every single thing. If we make a mistake, I want to know about it so that I can own up to it. And that's one thing I see estheticians do a lot in Facebook groups is they'll get negative feedback from a client and then they'll come and talk about that client instead of
Yeah.
taking that. I don't know. Have you seen that? And it's like, I get it 100%. I get it. It's an ego thing. But what that client is saying, 10 other clients are thinking. And that's one thing I love is client feedback. I don't care how negative it is. I don't care if it's about me. I don't care if it's about my attitude. I don't care what it is. I want to know because everything that you're saying, 10 other people are thinking and they're just not coming back because of it. And that's why
Mhm.
I'm so big on even if there's negative feedback, tell me so that I can fix it. So in our consent forms, we have our no hair left behind guarantee on there. And then we also have the check-in text that gets sent from me. So if there's anything, I want to hear it. And I strategically ask them, I'm like, is there anything on a scale of 1 to 10? How was your experience? Is there anything that we can improve on? If there is anything left behind, please let us know. You can come back within 5 days. We'll fix it for free and we'll give you something to make up for it. Give us that chance to make it right. That way they're not just going to go somewhere else because that's what's happening. Your leaky bucket of clients is clients not coming back to you for a reason. Most of the time, everybody's not coming back for the same reason. Don't get me wrong, like financial stuff, there's some people that's going to slip away, but
No.
for the most part, you should be having a really high retention. And that's how you get clear on it is by asking. And that's how I got clear on our client experience and how I customed it. And now every single waxer I have is trained on this experience of, hey, like, let's make it right. Let's have those relationships with our clients. Let's make sure we get every hair. There's very few things that a client isn't going to come back for. You have to own in on what it is for you.
And it's important to have that conversation because
Mhm.
literally there are things, and I believe there's habits that we just have as people
Yep.
that maybe we just don't know about, right?
Yeah,
Maybe I smell. I don't freaking know. Right.
absolutely.
Right. And
Absolutely.
it's like, I want to know. It's like, hey, they're like, hey, it's like having that conversation is important. A lot of times people don't want to hear that negative, but that negative is almost more important than the
Yes,
positive
it is. It
because
is.
it's exactly what you mentioned. If one
Yep.
person said it, 10 other are thinking it. They just didn't say it because they didn't want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing. I think it's an ego thing, in my opinion. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it's an ego thing.
Oh,
And
it is.
I think it's, it hurts our ego when we hear that we aren't great. But the reality is, every single thing you do isn't great. And you have to be okay with that. And you have to be okay with constructive feedback and criticism because that's what's going to make or break your business. And I think that's one thing that has really made me successful is I'm open to any and all feedback. And anything that I hear, I'm going to work towards changing. Don't get me wrong, like sometimes some things are ridiculous. Like it is what it is. But I think it's very important that you think about the feedback that you get and take those reviews. And I think that's one thing that helps with the reviews is we don't get negative Google reviews because we fix it if we make a mistake. We own up to it and we make it right. And we catch it before they can leave a Google review because I'm asking them. But I think people are scared to ask because they are scared of failing and scared of being less than. And it's you need to get rid of the fear. All this is fear based. All this is fear based. It's all mental. And I think really getting in front of your issues is really going to help. So that's what we do. We send that, and if they give positive feedback, I send them a text letting them know, thank you so much for your feedback. I'm going to let the girls know we really appreciate it. Google reviews really help our small business grow. If you can leave us a Google review, I'll give you $10 off your next appointment. Here's the link. And then in our waiting area, we have Google review QR codes everywhere so that while they're waiting, if they forgot about it, boom, it's right there. They can do it before their appointment, get $10 off. And I promise that $10 off is more than worth it to get all those reviews. And that's one thing, like I have plastered even on our windows of our storefront, 200 plus Google reviews. As soon as people drive by, they see, wow, 200 plus 5-star Google reviews. And nobody in my city is doing those numbers with no negatives, no negatives. Like some people do have all the reviews, but they have negative reviews also. I don't have negative reviews. Why? Because I catch it. And if I do catch it, we make it right. And then they continue being a client because we made it right.
And that's one of the important parts of your system is you want to ask them before they post something
Yes.
negative,
Yes.
because if they post it, then you're like, and you didn't even ask, and then it's like, oh crap, right? But literally, that's one of the successful things a lot of businesses will do is they'll be proactive, ask ahead of time,
Mhm.
because if there was a problem or anything of that sort, then you can fix it, and then you'll even get a better review. Go, hey, I this wasn't cool, but they fixed it. Oh my god, thank you so much. You actually care.
Yep.
All right, and that's awesome. So the other part are sales. So I one of the things that you mentioned is the education of using like body wash and things of that sort.
Yep.
How are your sales of product sales? Do you do much product sales as well, or is it mainly just the services? What percentage would you say it is?
Predominantly services. Our retail to sales right now is like 7%. We're actually working on getting it a bit higher. We had fur as our product line before, and people were buying it at Ulta and Sephora on discounts,
You know,
because and Amazon and stuff. So we recently just switched to just the strip products, which is actually my business coach's products, and everything is only sold through estheticians or her website, but then they have to pay for shipping. She doesn't do discounts and stuff like that. So I'm working on getting our retail to service dollar up a little bit more. That way we can even that out. It's also a little bit more cost effective. So people are buying more products instead of just one product. Like for example, $52 for oil, they can go get it from Sephora for, let's say, 42. We're selling it for
yeah.
52. Why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? I 100% understand it. But yeah, we're working more towards supporting small businesses right now. And then also getting our retail out of like Ulta, Sephora, all that good stuff. Retail, same thing as the mindset game. If you believe that your products are not working, that's going to affect your retail sales. If you 100% believe in your product line, you're going to have no issues with retail. Retail, biggest thing is education. You're not selling, you're educating. If you educate them on why they need it and what's going to help them, they're going to believe in you. If they believe in you, then they're going to buy your products.
Yeah, and one of the easiest ways to do that is as you're whether the service or during the consult is, for example, again with the waxing, it's like, okay, well, do you ever have ingrowns? Right.
Yep.
Well, what are you using? Oh,
Yep.
did you know dot 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 can cause this
Yep.
because of the residue?
Yep.
And I really just like the way you said, Amelia. You obviously you're very seasoned at saying it's like, oh, just try this for 30 days,
Yep.
and if it works, then we know. Otherwise, you don't have to buy it again. Right? It's a
And it's
very
not.
easy, it's a conversation.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. It's not a pushy sales tactic. It's, I know that this is the issue. I know that this works, but here's the thing. If you don't believe in your product line, you're not going to sell your products because you don't believe in it. So why would your client? So you really have to find the right products for you, and you really have to use them yourself to know that they work and believe in them yourself. And then it becomes a conversation of, okay, this is your problem. This is how you fix it. I know 100% it's going to fix it. So it's up to you. Are you going to take it or not? And then when they come back the next time, let's say someone doesn't buy a product, completely fine. I only ask twice. I'll ask once. If they say no, I'll be like, are you sure this is going to really help you? Next time they come in, they're having the same issue. Like I said, this is going to help you. Are you going to take it or are you not? And once it works, they're going to keep buying it because why would they stop?
You know. And so what else? What are some other of the things you've learned along the way that have really helped your business? that maybe came to you as a surprise, or something that you learned that helped grow you?
Um, let's see. I think building a team, everyone, I think having a team is like 50-50. I see a lot of people speak negatively about having employees because they feel like they dish out more than they get, and if you do it right, that's not how it works. If you do it right and you have the right team and the right seats, you can profit a lot off of team members while still making sure they're happy and still have, a decent paycheck. And I think that was the education that I needed before hiring. And that's why I was so thankful for my programs, is because all these things I didn't have to figure out on my own. So like the numbers that we do, is pretty unheard of. And even just like client retention numbers, all of that. And I think finding the right team members that believe in your vision. And it's very important that once you get to a certain point in business, that you have your mission, your vision, and your values, because everything in your business is going to revolve around that. And that's one thing, everything that I do, we have a very set mission, vision, values. And every single thing that I do revolves around that. And anytime that I make a business decision, I'm like, okay, does this align with our mission, vision, values? Does this employee align with our mission, vision, values? And all of it goes back to, we are trying to be the best of the best in the whole entire California for waxing. Like, we are known for that. And that goes back to our client experience and our client results and our no hair left behind guarantee and all these other things. So it's just all these moving parts that go into one, and it's very hard to figure out on your own.
Yeah. And you know what the interesting part is you are able to do, a $250,000, right? Plus just on in waxing,
Yep.
right? And it's a lot of people, I see other estheticians, they're gonna do facials and
No.
waxing and tooth gems
Nope. Nope. Nope.
and
Nope.
teeth whitening and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, you have to pick, I would say one. You want to be a master of one, and you don't want to be a jack of all trades, especially in the beginning. Pick one thing and really in on it. And that's one thing that we are working on right now also, is instead of full body waxing, we're trying to really market towards Brazilians. Brazilians, we have the highest return on our investment for, because of how quick they are and because of the supplies and materials. So one thing that is super helpful is every single service that you do, find out exactly how much you are spending to have that service. How much time does it take you? What is your hourly rate? How much, what is your cost per minute? What supplies are you using? And really finding out what that is. And that's the thing, is Brazilians, we get the biggest return on, and that's what we're trying to own in on, is being the best Brazilian waxing studio in Sacramento. And same thing on our windows, it literally says best Brazilian waxing in Sacramento, because that's what we're trying to focus in on.
yeah, but that's the cool part, is when you have one service. And I know so many gals that are doing Brazilians. It
Yeah.
would be their dream to be able to do shit 100,000 a year, right?
Yeah.
And to you be able to do, double that, and now soon
Yeah.
triple that and then some, right? It's possible. It is possible to do one thing,
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
before, and I truly believe this, before you diversify, meaning especially like as you grow, at some point maybe you can hire an esthetician to do facials as well, right?
Absolutely.
But before you do that, before you start running in all these different directions,
Yeah.
right? I feel that's one of the secrets to your success, is you really fine tune on this one thing, and you're just honing in on that space.
And then, yeah, absolutely. I feel like once you are the best, like, and that's not like you think you're the best, that is, you are the best in what you do, then yeah, you can totally add on other things. But there's no way I could have owned in on our experience for Brazilian waxing and our process for Brazilian waxing if I was also focusing on corrective skincare. It's a whole other lane. And that's one of my goals, is to take myself out of the treatment room for waxing, have my girls up here where, I'm at, and have them completely take it over, and then potentially reroute myself into the corrective skincare. And then once I dominate corrective skincare, I can teach other estheticians how to do corrective skincare and build that up. But I don't feel like I am at that point yet where I can revert this way, because what happens is all your focus is going here. All your focus is going here.
Yep.
Here's you dividing your focus, dividing your time. Why would you do that when you have a good thing going?
Right. And that's one of the things that what do they call them? Butterflies. You have an
Yeah.
idea. There's a
Yep.
butterfly, and those butterflies are some of the worst things ever because until you and I think 250 is a good number. And I know a lot of estheticians will just say I'm stupid or crazy, but if you're able to do 200, 250 with one thing
Mhm.
before you get to that point, I would not even consider
Oh,
trying another service or
there's no
trying this.
point.
Like you can do this if you can do it with a lower price ticket item such as a Brazilian, right? And then when you look at corrective skincare, which is going to be double, triple
High
that
ticket.
price
Yep.
point, right? It's if you can do 250 with a low, and
Yep.
then it's just but you can do this. You don't have to. You can do this much of a number by just doing eyebrows. If your brows point game is that
Absolutely.
good, right?
Absolutely. 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 And I think that's the direction where we're going after this. I really want to do laser, but in California they make it really difficult. So laser hair removal isn't an option, but that would be my route if we could do it as estheticians in California. But I think next route is going to be corrective skincare, and that's because of the high ticket. So right now we are low ticket, high volume. And then now I want to transition next step down the line, not right now, but into high ticket, lower volume, and then help cross promote. Because the thing is, people who get one beauty service are more likely to get
Yep.
in, but they also want to go to an expert. They're not going to go to a corrective skincare specialist that specializes in Brazilians. Why would she? Because you're not the best at what you do. You're not the best at corrective skincare because you specialize in Brazilians. That makes no sense. And I do see that a lot where people are like, how do I make more money? Oh, well, add on other services. It doesn't work that way because you're not going to be the best. So you really have to be the best at what you do. And I promise you that's going to come from feedback from your current clients. Send out a survey asking them, what am I doing good at? What can I improve on? And take that feedback and really, really, work on yourself. And that sucks to say, and that it sucks to hear for the first time. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to watch this and be like, I'm not doing that. And it's like, then you don't want it bad enough,
Yeah.
And it's just what it is. And that's one thing that I've paid thousands of dollars to learn that I'm giving to everyone here for free. Like, you have to take something and run with it if you're not going to pay for it. And that's why business coaches, I think, are so important, because all of these lessons that I've learned over these years would have taken me, I probably wouldn't have figured all this out until I was like 40 or 50, if I even figured it out, period. And that's my thing, is I'd rather pay to learn it fast and get those fast results than to try to spend all this time figuring it out and taking the hit revenue wise.
Yeah, because that's all you're doing. You're buying time, right?
Yep.
You could be doing 250 a year in your 40s and 50s,
Mm.
or you
Ex-
can pay a little bit up front and you can earn that now, right? And I think one of the
Yep.
things that you just mentioned is you clients and what clients think and
Yep.
feel is super critical to your business. And having that relationship with them, knowing what they liked, what they didn't like, even if you don't want to hear it, because if you don't want to hear it, you're running a business with blinders on, and it's delusional. You don't want to see the bad stuff, and you're only
Yep.
hoping for the good, and that's delusional. To be able to know what's on their mind, maybe the air is too cold in there, maybe it's too hot, maybe they didn't
Yep.
like the music, right?
Yep.
Maybe your bed isn't comfortable,
Yep.
whatever it may be. These are small things that, believe it or not, like I've
Make,
I've read in groups where someone put a topper on the bed and they're like, "Oh my God, this is so
yeah.
cushiony," and it
Yeah.
made a difference.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the little things that you can't think about.
Yep.
Even getting like a friend or like another esthetician to come in and for a free service and just give you feedback, like hard feedback. And you have to take it though. And that's one thing I don't think a lot of people are ready for. If they're not ready to hear that and be like, oh shoot, it's me, I'm the problem. But it's like it shows in your numbers. And that's why tracking is important, because the little changes you make, you're going to notice your numbers go like this, and they're going to start going up. If your numbers are going down, there's a reason. We need to figure out why. Everything is data-based. Every decision I make is a data-based decision now. And I wasn't doing that before. I was doing it like, I think this is
Mm.
working. And you have to make data-based decisions. And that's why tracking is important. You should be tracking every single number in your business. If you do not have a booking software and you're doing everything pen and paper, stop, because it's too hard to track. You need some type of booking software that can have accurate data, that can tell you exactly what you're doing number-wise. And then you need to put that in a spreadsheet so that you can see, okay, January compared to February, February to compared to March. My numbers are so down packed, I know at what booking percentage it is time to hire again. When we get 60% booked, it's time to hire, because by the time that I get someone in, we're 80% booked. And 80% booked is fully booked in the beauty industry. So it's like I have owned in on our numbers so much that I now have the data where I don't have to think about these decisions and make these hard decisions, because the numbers make it for me.
Yeah, and if you're not doing a data-based decision, you're doing a
Yes.
feelings-based decision.
And feelings
And
do not make friends.
no, and they don't make money. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's just so much
Yeah.
easier if you're running through a fork in the road. Do I hire? Do I
Yeah.
not hire?
Yeah.
Should I do this? Then if you look at the data,
Yeah.
the data will tell you based on where you are, based on your trend, based on this would be the more logical. This is the right thing to do based on this, right?
Yeah, and that's one thing I will say. So business coach wise, get a business coach. I've worked with Rhea at the Bosses in Beauty. I've worked and her whole entire team. I've worked with the Lashpreneur, Tara, and then I've also right now I'm working with Tanya, Just the Strip. They are all three amazing. I've finished all of their highest programs. Tanya, I'm just working with Just the Strip right now because she has certain other businesses that I am venturing into a little bit. But they're all amazing. And I will say though, like you have to put in the work. Like you can't pay a business coach to
Yeah.
manage your business. Like they're gonna tell you how to, and that's what you're paying for. They're gonna give you strategy, but you have to implement the strategy and you have to listen. You have to be coachable and you can't be hard-headed. And that's gonna save you a lot of time. I wasted like 4 months of not wanting to hire when I should have, and it put me 4 months behind. We would probably have done way more last year. Like I didn't hire, we made 250 last year, but I didn't hire until end of April because I spent those 4 months messing around. So if I would have listened, we probably would have done closer to 400 last year. But I was 4 months behind. So that's a whole quarter. That's you know what I mean? That's a third of the year. Like that's insane. And had I listened earlier, we would have been doing $29,000 months earlier, and that adds up. And that's how I could have got to 400,000 earlier, you know? So it's like you just have to listen. You have to take everything you can and be a sponge and soak it up. And that's not saying listen to everybody. That's not what I'm telling you to do, because not everyone is going to give you good information. You have to find the ones that are align with you in your business, and you have to find the ones who have the success that you want. Why would you go to someone who is doing worse than you're doing? I'm finding the people that have $1 million businesses because that's the direction I want to go. We're going to have $1 million waxing studio and I'm going to have multiple locations. So that's the vision. So I'm looking for people who are doing what I'm doing because they're able to teach me how they did it. And that's why I gave you guys those 3 business coaches, because I've worked with all 3 of them, and I recommend them all for different things.
Yeah, and that's the cool part with you, Maleah, is you hired the coach based on where you are and where you want to
Yes.
be. So the beginning was just you. Cool. You got this coach for you. Cool.
Mhm.
Now next step is I need to hire more people. Cool. This person has done this with
Yep.
this and this. Cool. Now you got that part. Now, okay, now I'm looking at more locations.
Yep.
Right, and each of those might be a specialty for another person. Maybe it's the same person, but that's a good place to do it. Is take that step by step
Yep.
process, as opposed to just who doesn't want to have multiple locations and make millions a year? Everybody does. However, it's probably a little bit easier to start with saying, okay, let me start with here and go from
Right.
there. Again, there's many ways to do it. There's several ways to skin a cat. Right? Is
Yeah.
that a good
Absolutely.
analogy? You know what's funny, Malia? So before you're gonna become a vet, right? And now you're waxing, right? So you've always been dealing with fur,
Yeah. Pretty much. Pretty much.
always in the fur.
For business. Yeah. But yeah,
Well, well,
those are my key things. I think really just spending money to make money, tracking, and then marketing. You have to own it on marketing. If you're not good at marketing, you need to pay someone who is good at marketing, and that's what I do.
yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't kill you, right? It's not
No, it
gonna
doesn't.
it doesn't cost thousands, but at the same time, find somebody good, because there's a lot of shady people out there that will
Please.
take your money and they're say, okay, we're gonna do this, and they're just gonna put some generic posts on your site, And that's not what marketing is. Marketing isn't just putting memes and things on your social. It's about looking at a result and then tracking that and seeing what is working, what is trending, and somebody that works for you, as opposed to just putting content out there, right?
Yeah.
So anything I'm missing? Last minute tips, tricks, ideas. What do you
Last
want to say to
minute
the group?
tips. I don't think so. I think it's just really owning in on where you're at right now, where you want to be, mapping out your vision, mapping out your plan. Business coaches can help you do that. Mindset is everything. It's gonna be 80% mindset. I know all that you guys hear all this work that I'm doing, but it's all mindset based also. I've done a lot of inner work of figuring out exactly what I want and exactly what's holding me back. And you have to be very honest with yourself on, what your limiting beliefs are and knocking those out. I think mindset is a huge thing that people don't think about. If you're in these Facebook groups saying I suck, you're gonna suck. But if you are, in there trying to really figure out what is happening and what your data is and what you can improve on, then you can get help. But you know, I think we get sucked in a lot on the negatives instead of trying to figure out how we can turn it into a positive. And I think that's one thing that people really need to focus on.
That's it, right? And literally that is the truth. It's 80%. It is not hard, y'all.
Not.
Like again, Maleah is just like you. The only difference is she seeks the advice and she implements it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of times that's where the big problems happen, is the rate of time it takes to hear that advice, and then the speed in which you implement it. The faster you did it, and that's one thing I picked up from Malia again. I wish I would have done this faster.
Yep.
I wish I would have done this sooner. I wasn't sure about this. And
Yep.
the sooner you do it, because at some point, sooner or later, you're gonna have to do the work. Otherwise, you're gonna either get stuck in a business you don't want to be, or go out of business. At some point, that work needs to get done,
Yep.
whether you do it or you hire somebody to do it. And the sooner you do it, the sooner you can reap the rewards and benefits of that work.
Yep. And writing momentum. When you're in momentum, you have to go with it. And you have to not let off the gas, because I've done that a few times where we were in momentum and then I kind of lost it a little bit.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. And that's my thing. Like if I had all the tools and knowledge that I have today, we would be much further. And that's one thing that I want you guys to realize, like how quickly this happened. My first year in business, we did 120,000, and then we did 250,000. This year, we're going to double at least again, 500,000. So it's like, the rate that we're going is crazy fast. Like no one is doing this. And the only reason I know that is because I'm in coaching programs with hundreds of other estheticians that are trying to do exactly what I'm doing. And that's why business coaches take me so seriously, though. You got to realize a business coach, you're paying them, but they have a lot of people. So whoever is taking them seriously, they're going to put their brains to. And Tanya, like I said, just the strip, she just messaged me the other day. I have the text right now. She was like, Maleah, like you are my favorite coaching client. And it's because you you listen, you don't back talk, you don't do anything. And it's because I've learned. I used to do that. Don't get me wrong. I used to, but I've learned that doesn't get you anywhere. And business coaches and people want to help me because they see that I'm ready. I'm gonna put in this work. And that's one thing every single person that I come in contact with, Wick, you could probably, agree.
Yep.
You know that I'm serious. And that's why you continue to work with me, because you know that anything you put in front of me, we're gonna knock out and get done.
See, and I guess y'all, that's a great way to end this, is you have to ask yourself, are you ready?
Yep.
Right. And I think a lot of people only, I don't think anybody would say, no, I'm not ready. However, it's not the words that you say, but it's the actions that you back it up with. There's a saying I live by. If you ever want to know the truth about somebody, don't listen to what they say, look at what they do.
Yep.
So if you say, "Yup, I'm ready," but then you're not doing any of social media, you're watching Netflix all the time, you're excited about the new show that's happening,
Yep.
then it's like you have to ask yourself, because literally that is all it is. The difference between where you are to hitting your goals of 250 plus and then some is, are you ready? If you're not sick and tired of being sick and tired of not having the results, because again, Maleah before was scared of committing to $800 rent. She didn't have a car, right? You know, it was like all these things. She had this she had to deal with her family who wanted her with their good wishes and thoughts, wanted her to have a more stable job. Right. But at the same time, you cannot stop someone who's just willing to go. And that's like truly that's like I can see why these coaches just loved you like that, because that's one of the best things to any coach out there is we will put more of our time and our resources and our efforts and our caring and our hearts because this person is doing the work.
Mhm.
And if you're not willing to do the work, or you're showing you're not doing the work by not doing it, or not showing us that you are working on it, then we lose interest. We're like, well, thanks for buying the program. What, I can't do anything for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing is don't spend the money if you're not going to do it. Take it seriously. But if
Yeah.
you're going to put in the work, they're going to give you the tools 100%. Like these programs, I've taken them and I've gotten here. So the three business coaches I gave you guys, they work. But if it doesn't work for you, that's a you thing, and you have to do some inner reflecting of, hey, am I going to do this or not? And you have to be very honest with yourself. I will say this, owning a business is not for everyone. I have employees who have had businesses in the past and they're very transparent of like, Maleah, like, I see all the work that you do. Like that's why my business did not work. And now I know, but I'm not, they're honest with themselves also if I'm not doing all this. So I'd
No.
rather work for you so that we can create this together because I'm not going to do it myself. And that's 100% valid. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want you, if take anything away from this also, no, you do not have to have a business. You don't have to do all this. I say all the time, if I was 10 years older and I had kids, there's no way I could do this right now. There's no way. At least at the rate that I'm doing it. And it's because of how much work and time and effort and energy I put into it. I also have a very supportive fiance that handles everything at home and still works. So he works a full-time job, does all that. And then he also comes home, cooks, cleans, does all of this so that I don't have to. So every single thing, like I have support to help me get through this. And it's not saying that it can't be done without it, but I do have the advantage of a lot of support.
Yeah, but shit, girl, if you're gonna be banking 5 hundo a year, right? Yeah, I make some eggs, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Hey, it doesn't matter if you make it or he makes it.
Absolutely.
I always say if you put it in the left pocket or right pocket, it still goes in the same pair of pants.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's one thing, I have a very supportive fiance that has always been there and has been like, no, we're going to knock it out and, invested back into me to be able to do all of this. And, it has taken me away from home, but luckily he has been there. But that's what I'm saying. If I had kids and like, I was pregnant or anything like that, I don't know how I would do it. And that's why I'm trying to set myself up for success now, though, is so that when, a few years down the line, when we do get to that stage, I can have the freedom, because that's one thing it does give you is the freedom once you do have employees. And that's what I have employees for, is to give me that freedom to be able to not be in the treatment room anymore. Because reality is most people that get in the treatment room, they can't get out because we don't tax plan and we don't plan for retirement and all these other things that you need to get with an accountant with and get going as an esthetician, even if you're solo, even if you're young, start that now. Because when 40 years down the line, you don't have a retirement, you're going to be in the treatment room forever because you don't know about all these other things that play into it. And that's what I'm saying. You guys need help because a lot of estheticians do not know this. I didn't know this. And now I do at the age of 23. I have a setup where I can probably retire in 20 years. And, that's the reality.
And you know what? The cool part is money gives you a lot of options, and especially like what you're doing. Like, for example, if you can get some good employees and you're
Mhm.
growing your business and you're growing different locations, whether you're franchising it at some point
Yeah.
or whether you're giving them a part of the ownership, meaning, shit, if I have zero headaches in one location because this certain person is kind of like a partner for me now or
Yeah.
what have you, then they want to grow their business. If
Yeah.
they're a midi business owner under your umbrella, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So many options and think about. Well, Maleah, thank you so much. Stick on with me for a minute. So everybody, if you got anything from this, this is a gal. She is just super awesome. Again, I've met Maleah many times. Had the privilege of working with her, and it's just one of the best things ever. Is working with it, looking at keeping your client experience important. There's two reasons people will not come back, like Maleah mentioned. It's going to be the experience or the results. You have control over all of that.
Mhm.
So of what you do, paying attention to things like the social media, hiring the right people, that's not going to cost you an arm and leg. A lot of the times we're passing, we're counting pennies and we're passing over hundreds of dollar bills because we're just taking, a fear of taking that steps. And what thing Malia mentioned is in the long run, when you look back, one thing you'll hear again and again is, I wish I would have done this sooner.
Yep.
So pick this up, watch this, take notes. Maleah's contact will be there. Bug her with questions, and Maleah's super nice. She'll help out, and we'll go from there. Go. Peace.
Absolutely.